Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Psycho, and I've got another Walking Dead video for you all today. And more specifically, today we're going to be focusing on the topic of Carl's death and the question of, will his death lead to a new and dangerous Rick? And just to explain the word dangerous in this context, I think it has two different meanings, and I mean it in both ways. For the first meaning, I'm discussing dangerous as in dangerous to Rick's own health and his own livelihood. This can include taking very big risks on his own life, and simply taking risks that he might not have taken if Carl were still alive. Now, on the other hand, I'm talking about dangerous as in dangerous to the enemies, as in Negan and the Saviors, and possibly the garbage people. We're basically talking about Rick returning to the Season 5 badass, ruthless motherfucker. Now, before I go on and discuss the rest of these ideas and expand upon them, I just want to mention that this is a video that I've had in my mind for at least a week or two, and a recent behind-the-scenes video of The Walking Dead Season 8B was released on AMC's channel, and I found some interesting little scenes of some of the Walking Dead team talking about Rick and the characters in the future of this second half of the season, and I think it directly relates to this topic of a new and potentially more dangerous Rick. So I've created a compilation of the scenes that I think are relevant to this topic, and I have them uploaded on an unlisted video that can only be accessed if you know the link. And the link to that video is down in the description below. I'll also post it in the comments section, and it links over to my second channel for you guys to watch the specific clips that I'm talking about and the ones that I think relate to this topic. I honestly sat for an hour or two editing this and trying to decide whether I wanted to post it on my channel just because it would be easier for you guys to see it all at once here. But I noticed that it specifically said copyright AMC Film Holdings LLC down at the bottom of the video, and usually it doesn't say that on some of the Walking Dead trailers, so I thought, this is suspicious because the last time I got a copyright strike, it was by AMC Film Holdings. So even with it being fair use and complying by the copyright rules by including it in this video and then discussing it, I didn't want to take the risk because I knew the bot would probably just flag the video and it would get copyright striked even if it was fair use. So I didn't want to risk that, which is why I have it linked over onto the second channel. But I cannot emphasize enough for you guys to go over and look at that video real quick. It's only 27 seconds, and I would just advise you to do that right now before we go ahead and discuss the rest of this video. Resuming back onto this topic, I really think that a dangerous Rick is a possibility in the future of this second half of Season 8 and possibly Season 9. Now, I also have another video that's coming out where it focuses on the future of Rick without Carl, but it's focusing on more of the emotional aspect and how Rick is going to be dealing with it emotionally. Even though the topic of a new dangerous Rick does involve emotional aspects, I'm talking about Rick struggling with that every day, and it's sort of being a mental issue for Rick. Like I said though, this is focusing more on the actions of Rick and the riskiness of his actions in the future. Personally, I would love to see Badass Rick return because I think it would definitely fit that story given Carl's recent death. Because most of the scenes within the series where Rick is going crazy on people and going into badass mode, it's usually because of some aspect associated with Carl, such as episode 416 titled A, where he rips Joe's throat out and gut stabs one of the claimers. You've got the episode titled No Way Out, where Carl gets shot in the eye, and Rick basically goes insane on those walkers outside. He barrel rolls one over his shoulder, and he just goes full Savage Rick on those walkers. And this is because he thinks in that moment, Carl's life is potentially over. And if there's any sort of sliver of chance that Carl can live through that, he's going to basically risk his own life to keep those walkers from getting to Carl before Denise can save him. And personally, I think if Rick could choose his life over Carl's, he would definitely give up his life for his son, just like the majority of good parents out there. So now that Rick is finally not going to have Carl around anymore, I'm definitely interested to see how he reacts to that. I think there's a big possibility that Rick will engage in a lot more risky behavior, given his emotional stance after Carl's death, and just the way that he's dealing with things. It probably doesn't even seem real to Rick in that moment. I understand that Rick does have Judith and Michonne to take care of, in addition to his community's people, but if we're being honest here, out of all of those people, Judith, Michonne, and everyone else, I think Carl is the most important person in Rick's life. And that's definitely a controversial statement, but it's my opinion, because throughout the whole series, Carl has driven Rick to stay alive and to keep going, and it gave him something to focus on. His future was keeping Carl alive and providing a better world for Carl. Rick wanted those communities to form, that way he could finally have some actual peaceful civilization that could be there for Carl's future. And now that Carl is going to be gone, I feel like there's a lot of hopelessness that will be within Rick, even though he does have Judith and Michonne and other people. Nothing's really going to fill that hole of his son missing. I think that they can take it multiple routes with this, and most likely, it's going to be a choice of these 3 routes. One of those possibilities will be that Rick is very angry, and he needs a way to release that anger, and that is definitely going to be on his enemies, in addition to him potentially risking his life a lot more as well. Another choice is an emotional Rick, where he keeps going on and keeps doing what he has to do for his communities, but at the end of the day, we get scenes of Rick sitting down, he's sitting there pondering, just thinking about Carl, we might see some flashbacks, but I would simply just prefer scenes with him where you know he's thinking about Carl, but it's not a flashback, it's just him looking, and we can see his eyes and just understand his whole demeanor. The third option that we have for the attitude of Rick in the second half of Season 8 involves a combination of the two. We might get some scenes with a very angry Rick, with him releasing his anger and making some really risky decisions just on his own life. Yet this may play in combination with an emotional Rick that we see sides of as well. And personally, I would love to see this combination, and I think that would be a very good choice. But either way, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, all of these choices are definitely relevant to a person's struggle with losing a child. Now, I'm going to stop the direction that this discussion is going into right now, because I have a video planned on basically focusing on that one central idea right there in the future. I kind of just wanted to focus on the potentially dangerous Rick that we may see in the future. So make sure to stay tuned on my channel for the discussion of an emotional Rick that may be coming in the future, and me talking about different aspects and scenes that I would love to see involving that idea. Also, just to add on to this, me and a few other YouTubers right now are planning on doing a Walking Dead podcast titled The Talking Walkers Podcast. Now, this will be including, as of now, the YouTubers BreakingTWD, TheVividKiWi, and your boy Psycho, which you guys know who that is. Right now, we're still forming plans and things on this podcast, so I'll definitely keep you guys updated in the future on what's going on with that and how we're dealing with it. But just make sure to keep that on your guys' radar, because I think that will be a good opportunity for some of us to discuss things together and get different ideas out there. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like on it. That really helps me out a ton, and it supports the channel and shows me that you enjoy these types of videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.